Pellegrino pomegranate, and it's in the same thing, and I refuse to do it.
You can take a draw off mine if you need.
Like, there's nothing wrong with it.
Ready to go? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I call to order the regular city council meeting of the Sierra Vista City Council for March 28, 2019. May we have a roll, Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Rick Mueller.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Rachel Gray.
Present.
Councilmember William Benning.
Present.
Councilmember Gwen Calhoun.
Present.
Councilmember Sarah Pacheco.
Present.
Councilmember Carolyn Humphrey.
Present.
Councilmember Christine Wolf.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mrs. Adams. Tonight, the invocation will be led by Father Del McClune of the St. John the Divine Church, and immediately followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman Pacheco. Will you please rise?
If it's your custom, if you'll please bow your heads with me. Almighty God, Father of us all, we thank you on behalf of all those here assembled for the abundant blessings you've given our city and our community, and for the opportunity to serve the great people of this city. We ask for your hand of blessing to be especially upon our mayor and upon the city officials and upon those council members assembled here today. We ask that you give them wisdom to govern justly, the ability to work in harmony, even sometimes in honest disagreement, that you give them personal peace so that they go home knowing that what they've done here today is very important and that it's appreciated by the citizens of this city. We ask that you bless them as they go through the agenda set before them, that their decisions might benefit the citizens of this city, and that you might remind them that they are the stewards of a sacred trust. We ask this, O Heavenly Father, in thy holy name, and in the name of the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Thank you, Father, and thank you, Councilwoman Pacheco. Item number 1 is acceptance of the agenda. Councilwoman Humphrey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the agenda for the regular city council meeting of March 28th be approved as written.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additions, completions, or any additions or corrections? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now go on to the city manager's report. Mr. Patuchik.
Thank you, Mayor Mueller, members of the council. Our CDBG project regarding the construction of sidewalks and ADA sidewalk ramps is out to bid, and those bids will be opened on April 2nd, so that's next week. Also, our invitation to bid for our CDBG Timothy Lane Park Improvements Project, also out right now, will be opened on April 4th, so that's also next week. And then we have 2 bids that were awarded, and you can see the work going on already on the streets. It's our annual street maintenance projects for crack sealing and patching, and then for asphalt repair services. Both those were awarded to BNR Paving, so they're out there, and be careful and watch for them while they're out there. So doing good work. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Patuchik. Any questions for Mr. Patuchik on his report?
Sir.
Okay, we'll move on then to first item is a public hearing item. Item number 2, Mrs. Calhoun.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that consideration of funding applications for fiscal year 2019-2020 Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan be removed from the table for discussion.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of removing it from the table? Okay. It's unanimous. Thank you. Mr. McLaughlin, may we have a staff report, please?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we are at the tentative selection stage for next year's allocation of Community Development Block Grant funding. We'll take the feedback and direction that we received this evening in preparing our annual action plan, which will be presented together with the 5-year consolidated plan at a second public hearing, followed by a 30-day public comment period in May. I've asked the Assistant City Manager to be added to a work session in April to continue our discussion on establishing priorities that you want to pursue with the consolidated plan update. We're currently working with a grant estimate of $260,000 as the basis for developing the annual action plan for 2019, which is the same amount we received this program year. In addition to NAMI's request, we received an application from the Boys and Girls Club to cover after-school program scholarships for the low-income youth of the community. They were requesting $15,000, which is the same amount the council approved last year. The Boys and Girls Club state they were able to increase the number of youths they serve each day by 10%, and were able to leverage the city's previous grant award to raise an additional $15,000 with more funding currently pending. You have an email this afternoon to demonstrate that they are showing a quantitative increase in the level of service as required by HUD. If the council wishes to fund this public service request, we recommend that the amount be deducted on an equal basis across the recommended city projects. Again, those city projects are $175,000 for Soldier Creek Park improvements, $25,000 for improvements to James Landwehr Plaza, and $40,000 for ADA ramps and sidewalks in the target areas. With that, I'll take any questions.
Before we go there, I'll mention that this is a public hearing item. I do not have any requests to address us tonight on this issue. Is there anybody out there that would like to address us on this issue before we talk on the council? Jay, if you'd introduce yourself and state your name, please.
I'm Jay Hamwright with the Boys and Girls Club Sierra Vista, Chief Professional Officer. Quick note, I know I sent you that email. Those numbers actually flip from year to year. So it's actually a 10% increase. I got the 2018, 2019 backwards, just so you guys see that. So a couple more things to add to that. We 100% of the youth served from this grant during the current year are qualified for free or reduced lunch. 70%, over 70% are minorities. And then if you guys did any research, you know kids who typically qualify for free or reduced lunch, they typically have a lower progression rate through their grade levels. 100% of the kids that were affected by this grant are on track to progress to the next grade too. So I want to include that as well.
That's good work, Jay. Thank you. Any questions for Jay while he's here? Okay, I guess you're off the hook, Jay. Okay, I'll open it up for discussion. And I guess what we're doing tonight is we're basically giving you guidance.
That's right.
So that we can have another public hearing with the final
With the draft.
draft, well,
Plan.
yeah, draft plan, okay, all right. So, discussion.
I have nothing.
Um,
Oh, okay.
We're arm wrestling here or what?
Yeah, well, I wasn't
Go
sure
ahead.
William was raising
Gwen.
his hand.
No.
I have nothing for Jay. I wanted to ask Kelly a couple more questions.
Would you mind,
she-
Kelly? And just identify yourself for the record, please.
My name is Kelly Norris. I'm the Executive Director of NAMI Southeastern Arizona, which is the National Alliance for Mental Illness.
Kelly, I just wanted you to clarify what area that your request will fill complete for the grant request. What area of need of the 3 needs? Do you know what am I being clear enough? I don't have that in front of me.
It was the top one on the form. It has been a
Okay.
very long day. I'm going from different presentation and youth groups today. I believe it was the social living,
Do you remember?
Suitable living.
suitable
environment,
living.
I
Okay.
think.
And do you expect to serve, so the first one on suitable living conditions, do you expect to serve children in a low income?
Yeah, a majority of them will be in the low-income community. However, we're not going to turn any child away because of the level of mental health issues growing and suicide issues that are growing in the communities, our community and the communities around us. So a majority of them will be in our low-income demographic, but there is the possibility that a few of them will not be.
Did
Okay,
you want to
and
say?
okay, so the requirement is that a majority, 51%, are documented as being low to moderate income. And we talked about you screening
Yes,
the applicants to the program to ensure they qualify.
correct.
I was also, after reading the qualifying things, that this really looked like an area too that could almost be a crisis area because of the nature of the presentations you want to do, and from what we're seeing across the nation on children being in such danger for suicide. So it just occurred to me this would fit that category also, if I'm reading it correctly. Also, one last thing, do you expect to have some of your presentations in the areas of town where you might find more lower income
Yes.
children?
Yes, and what we're going to do is to make sure we hit the most demographics, because there is a large majority that don't have vehicles and transportation. So every month we have a project, it's going to be in a different location. So if they have a hard time getting to one location, we can do it again in another location to make it easier. So eventually we'll hit every area in the city that can come and attend.
Thank you so much.
Wait, what's next? I think.
It's real simple. Gwen pretty much asked all my questions, so thank you. I do want to say, Jay and Kelly, I work with both of y'all a lot, so I appreciate everything both of your organizations do. And I look forward to actually seeing, when I come down to NAMI and I spend time with you, what you're doing if this gets approved. So thank both of y'all so much.
Wait, I had a question on like the nature of the service you're providing.
Wait, no, let's go ahead. Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. Okay. So could you explain the nature of the service you're
Yeah,
providing?
what we're going to be doing is therapeutic art projects with the children, and their parents will be there as well. And then the children will be receiving resource information from us. But then we also want them to be aware of the resource youth support group at CBIS that does a youth group for support for children. So I want to have one of the presentations will be that support group therapist. She'll be there facilitating the art project and talking about what resources they have along with the resources that we have. And then we're going to have, hopefully, I haven't gotten a chance to get a hold of you, nor behavioral health people at Chiricahua, and I would love to bring your behavioral health out there to show the members of the community the mental health resources they have right here that they might not even realize, and just show them how many people here want to help them, want to help their children, and the children who can help them even if they don't have the parents willing to help. So it'll always be a different organization, different behavioral health service outlet specialists that will be there to show the resources from us and then the resources around our community.
One of the things to kind of piggyback on, we had a discussion about therapists and qualified therapists, and I guess this is really a question for Matt. Based on the grant, is there any standards for making sure that when we do a therapy program like this, that we have certified, qualified, or some type of therapists that do this thing?
I think
I'm just worried about a federal
yeah.
requirement.
Right. As long as the low to moderate income participants are benefiting from the public service that's being provided, they'll be in compliance with the HUD regulations.
Okay, thank you. Christine, did you have something?
I do. And this, I think, is based on what was presented to us last time about the NAMI and what you guys were going to do. Last time it was presented that all the children, regardless of age, would be in one group. Is that still
They
the
would
plan?
all be able to attend the art program. Depending on how many kids are there, we can separate them into multiple groups. So if there was a group of 5-year-olds that showed up, we would have them in one side. So they would not all be like a 5-year-old next to a 17-year-old. It would be split up a little bit, but they would all be in the same area, so they could all receive the same services from the specialist. But they would have different people helping with the art project too.
I see. Thank you.
Ms. Calhoun?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are you following a particular curriculum for this program, or is it one that's being devised as you go along?
It's being devised in partnership with the different organizations. So like for when we go to CBIS, for example, with their support group, we're going to go with the curriculums that they have in place that they utilize in their support group. So it'll be various curriculums from various organizations in the community.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kelly, I just have one. Kelly, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Got that right. I just have one question for you. What is the plan for NAMI to continue this program past this year?
We always have opportunities for fundraising events, and if this program proves to be something successful, we have a lot of other organizations that have been interested in partnering with us, and especially partnering and funding specific programs. So the other big thing is, especially once the program starts, like getting it kicked off the ground, that's always the most expensive year for the program. But once we have it in place, it generally tends to get a little bit less expensive. But we have multiple, like I said, fundraising events throughout the year, and then different organizations that want to partner with us in the future and fund specific programs. So this can be then a program where we can say, look, these are the numbers, this has worked, and then we can advertise that to the other organizations in the community to continue funding the program.
Okay, and then I have a follow-on to that. So with the other organizations that are looking to partner and potentially do this, would they be able to give letters to indicate that intent to partner in conjunction with this program?
Yeah.
Okay. I have questions for Matt and Jay, but whenever everyone's done with
Do
Kelly.
we have anything else for Kelly? Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate you being here. Okay, other questions?
Yes. Jay, your turn. So I just want to know, if this funding was not provided this year for you guys, would you have to cut services for the Boys and Girls Club to that will help children that are on free and reduced lunch, or would you be able to continue?
So we will be able to provide with the service that we have now. But again, this funding for next year is, we're not taking this funding and it's going out of our door. We're using this to leverage more funds. So we have this funding next year is to reach a different group of kids so we can serve more kids from that demographic.
So you're using it to grow
Exactly.
and
Capacity
not
building.
maintain?
Yes.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you, Jay.
Anything else for Jay while he's here, just in case? Okay, thanks, Jay.
It's Matt's turn.
Yes, you still got the floor, young
Okay,
lady.
thank you. Oh, that's sweet. You called me young lady. Matt, so I know that with CDBG funds, the administrative requirements are pretty burdensome. So who's responsible for those grant reporting and grant requirements? The city, or is it the organization?
Well, the responsibilities are laid out in the subrecipient agreement, so there are responsibilities on both parties.
Okay.
And they're defined through that agreement, and it's our job to monitor compliance with the terms of the agreement.
And we have someone dedicated for that?
Myself and Yoli.
Okay, thank you. And then one other question is, if we decide to fund the 15,000 to Boys and Girls Club, the 5,000 to NAMI, how can you lay out in more detail how that funding will affect the city projects that we would like to do? What would not be able to be done?
We'd have a smaller budget for the
Right.
three projects we're recommending, so it would be,
You taking 5,000?
yeah, basically 5,000 out of each right.
Right.
One, but where's the other 15 coming from is what we're.
Well, it's up to council. We would recommend that 5,000 be shaved off each of the three projects that we're proposing, which are the ADA ramps, the improvements to Landwehr Plaza, and the Soldier Creek Park.
So that would decrease the scope of those projects, so not as many ADA ramps?
The
for
extent of the
example?
improvements, right, to be defined
Okay.
through a master planning
So it
process.
would shrink those projects.
Right. We'd have a smaller budget to develop the improvements.
Get done. Is there a way to prioritize, like, the ADA ramps are the ones in particular I'm interested in? Would there be a way to prioritize so that council would know which ones won't get done if we take money out?
Well, I think what Matt has said is the 15 grand is, he's recommending it
5,000,
split evenly.
Right,
If we want to say, no, Matt, we want to make sure that
all
all the ramps get done, and we take 7.5 or from each of the other two, or we take 10 and 5 or whatever it is out of the other two. That's really what we need to tell him so he can make the
I see.
recommendation.
I see. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Another question might be, too, could the two Jay and Kelly's programs work with a little less than the 5,000 and the 15,000 that they've requested? So that conversation could be held. Is that
And are these decisions you need tonight, Matt?
Well, it's direction. Again, it could be refined during the next public hearing. If you have a change in position, we'll just amend the draft for the 30-day public comment period. But we're looking for what to include in the
What I'd
draft.
really like to see tonight is what to include in the draft.
Right.
We need to come up as a council to give guidance to Matt to say it's gonna be 555, 0, 75, 75, or 750, 750, whatever it is gonna be, so that he can come up to us with a draft, or, go on, since we're taking the $5,000 out of the admin side anyway, we're really talking about, if you wanna reduce the Boys and Girls Club, go to 10,000 or 5,000 or whatever it's gonna be. So that's the kind of discussion we need to have now, so that we can give Matt his guidance.
Could we say it in a way that we would be negotiating without being specific, but that we would negotiate the various amounts? Would that fit into the draft?
Well, I don't know who you gonna negotiate with.
Well-
He needs to have guidance.
Okay, well, I mean, we would say who we negotiate with, but would we have to be specific on amounts, or could we just say negotiate?
Well, if we're gonna have another public hearing, we need to have a specific amount to put it out to the public.
And hopefully our CDBG funding's higher than last year's allocation. We don't know yet. We'll find out probably in the next 30 to 60 days.
Is there any indication at all? I'm so sorry.
Negative.
Go ahead.
No, he's saying it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just, for my clarification too, because I should ask this probably Tuesday. When we send out the RFP, we're not putting a price on it. So this is our estimate, $175,000 for the park. So when we get our bids back from the RFP, are we doing lowest price technically acceptable, or what are we looking for when we get these bids back?
Chuck?
Okay, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Benning, that's a good point. We're not really talking about large sums of money here, so it's very possible, we could include these projects as they're requested in the draft plan. We can refine some of our numbers with regards to the other projects. They are estimates at this point, as you pointed out, and certainly it may all come out in the bid process and work out just fine. So, I don't think we need to, arm wrestle over the 15,000 so much. Some of these projects, are in Laura's area. We could work with her and her staff in engineering, and I think we can refine those numbers on the park and be able to satisfy all the needs here.
So what I hear you telling me, Chuck, is that the guidance really to Matt is include the 15, include the 5, and we need to go back and relook as how we can rework the other 3 major projects and come to us with the numbers for the other 3 projects.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I don't have any problem with the Boys and Girls funding them. I think they've given us numbers, and I feel really happy about that, and I hope they're growing. I think what NAMI is talking about approaching is a huge issue, and I think it's something that we can do. My major concerns are that, as you previously stated, is that they are not going to have therapists, and I'm also concerned about having 10-year-olds and 17-year-olds in the same room. I'm very concerned about those things. And for me, it's about almost opening us up to liability, as opposed to, I understand $5,000 in our budget is not much.
But what I think I heard Kelly tell us was that they're going to have enough adequate adult supervision in the area. Even though there may only be one qualified therapist, there will be other adult assistants.
I'll be one of them.
So I don't share the same concern, is what I'm telling you, because of that.
That's fair.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I'm sorry.
Okay. William?
On that concern, working with NAMI, I know a lot of times people worry about the ages, but I know NAMI and a lot of other organizations actually use their older teens as peer groups. So as a younger teen, they listen to them and they see their perception and their reactions, and they try to emulate that instead of hide their feelings and hide what they're trying to get through. So I think that's why having them together is a good idea, but I understand your concerns also. So it's a difficult spot, but with adult supervision, I don't think it's an issue.
Yes, ma'am.
I have one more question for Jay, actually. I just like to make him come up to the front. It's
Likes you,
fun.
Jay.
It's fun. Jay, did you have any issues with the Boys and Girls Club with meeting the reporting requirements? Did you find those cumbersome or?
No, it's
You
kind of
were-
daily
you were
life for
fine
us.
with them?
So yeah, that's kind of daily life for us. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then I just have comments whenever, you ready?
Cool.
Okay, so I have no issue with either of the programs, but with the stipulation with NAMI, what I would like to see is a plan for how this program will be able to continue past this year. So that's why I was asking for letters of intent from other partner organizations. I would also like to see a kind of detailed, I'm not, the word business plan's what's coming to mind, but that's not really what it is. It's a program statement of work, just to let us know and let council know what it looks like before we make a final decision.
On that last item, I think what I heard was that this is a one-time ask this year from us, and next year, you hope, if this is successful, you hope to have other people fund it.
Yes, and
That's what I heard.
And that's what I heard also, but I would like to see organizations specify intent to help fund that. I don't want to see us give this money and then after 1 year, it not continue if it's successful.
Yeah, okay. Any other further discussion? Matt and Chuck, do you have enough guidance? Okay. Any final comments?
No, sir.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Jay. We appreciate it. So that will come up when again, Matt? Remind me.
We're looking at May now with a work session in April to
April
continue
work session,
discussion
and then the decision
on
be made.
prioritization for the 5-year consolidated plan. The annual action plan will be wrapped into it's the first year funding application of the 5-year
We
consolidated plan.
we vote on the plan in April or May?
May.
May, okay.
Have the review.
Okay, any questions?
I just have one last thing. If we could see that program and those letters before April 11th, just so we can review them, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? We ready to move on?
No, we gave them direction. We're good.
Okay, so they got the direction, and we'll have another public hearing coming up. All right, we go to item number 3. Mrs. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me turn my page over. I move that Resolution 2019-027, approval of the proposed substantial amendments to the West Sierra Vista redevelopment area plan be approved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Mr. McLaughlin, may we have the staff report, please?
Sure. Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'd like to begin my presentation by establishing a little bit of context on where we're at in the process. There are essentially 3 phases. The first phase is setting the geographic scope of the redevelopment area. This is based on an existing conditions assessment relative to the statutory factors to establish the need for redevelopment. Now, I understand that redevelopment can conjure up different things in different people's minds. Our definition of success is bringing down the relatively high commercial vacancy rate and seeing an increase in private sector investment in dealing with building and site deterioration issues to create a more attractive and appealing environment. The how you get there is the second phase, and that's through the redevelopment plan. That's where we're at today. The West Sierra Vista redevelopment plan was first approved a year ago on March 22nd. The document is formatted to follow the content requirements set by the state statute. We provide a description of the boundaries, information on existing uses, conditions of real property, and then paint a picture on how the district can evolve over time in accordance with the current land use plan and zoning regulations. The plan lays out a course of action describing the activities, estimated costs, and method of financing of the projects and activities we intend to undertake over the next 10 years to effectuate the outcomes we desire. The initial premise upon which it is based is that the private sector is going to be the lead actor with the city playing a supporting role. Our strategy for revitalizing the area consists of 2 prongs: providing matching grant assistance for building and site improvements that support economic development, and renovating the streetscape to function more like a main street that supports a more compact, mixed-use environment. This effort is not only being supported by the West End Commission, but also its predecessor, the Downtown Neighborhood Commission. So this has been going on a long time. I think that you all recognize that there's a deep yearning in the community for revitalizing the West End, and that's why we're going through this process. The third phase is the hardest part, and that's the implementation, getting the private sector to buy in to the community's vision. First, you plan the work, and then you work the plan. On that front, we are marketing the program to existing and prospective businesses and partnering with the real estate community and networking at the local and state level to draw more attention to the city and entice more people to the West End. We're in the procurement phase on the engineering design services for the renovation of a section of West Fry Boulevard and North Garden Avenue to get that project off the books. So where we're at today is consideration of substantial amendments to the redevelopment plan to address the 29-acre expansion area that was approved on February 14th. The designation process, or phase 1, is complete. We are now in phase 2, which involves adjusting the maps and data and analysis in the redevelopment plan to account for the amended boundary. The two-prong redevelopment strategy is essentially the same as what was first approved, with language being added to include North Garden Avenue to the project. Based on the feedback that we received at the work session on Tuesday, staff has rescinded our recommendation to pursue the development of a business incubator from the redevelopment strategy. We understand that you want us to continue to play a supporting role in economic development. Staff is exploring the potential for outside partnerships to take the lead on this endeavor. We get that there is more legwork that needs to be done before setting that as a community redevelopment objective. The recommendations contained in the plan align with the goals and strategies of Vista 2030 as determined by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The general plan places importance on maintaining, improving, and revitalizing old areas of the community, promoting infill development and adaptive reuse of buildings. The supporting strategies will be carried out through the implementation process. So in summary, the amendments primarily pertain to the background information in the plan to address properties in the expansion area. No significant changes are being proposed to the city's redevelopment strategy or the amount of funding that is being recommended over the next 10 years. We will take an incremental approach to promoting community reinvestment. We are seeing growing interest in the West End, and we are doing our best to clear the path to guide that interest into beneficial projects. And the support you are providing is making a difference. On a procedural note, I just want to say that state law requires a 2/3 vote on approving the plan, so we'll need 5 yeses for this document to be approved. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Matt, before we do that, I just want to make a comment. I've had some conversations with some business owners. There are a couple of them that regretted not being able to get in on time. And what I assured them is we will continue to relook at this on an annual basis. If we need to expand the areas again and go through the process to amend, to add additional properties as this program goes forward and shows its worth, we can do that on a regular basis. These folks basically made up their mind a little late, and it's not fair to those folks that have already committed to becoming part of this area to stop the process, restart the process, and take another several months to go through the process. So we do have additional interest, and I want the council to know that. And I've talked to the folks, and they understand that it's kind of an admin thing. We have to follow state law, do certain processes at certain times, and have certain public hearings. And unfortunately, that's the way the government works sometimes. So we have additional interest. With that, this is a public hearing item. I do not have anybody that is signed up to address us tonight on this issue. Is there anybody in the public that would like to address us on this issue tonight? Yes, sir. What I need you to do, sir, is if you identify yourself, there are forms that deal with your name, et cetera, on the side. If you'd get one and fill it out later, sure, and give it to Maria, we'd appreciate that.
Sure. Russ Ward, business owner, Horn Toad, Sierra Vista, Arizona. Of course, I'm the one that sent you the email. I wasn't really trying to slow the process down. That was a total misconstrued of what my email was. I wanted to show solidarity on the West End. I was upset because I was left out of the solidarity side of this. I put my first property in at the beginning of the process and was one of the few that battled against the "we don't want this" group and allowed some of my property be in just so that we could have some sort of, hey, let's get it done up here. That's what I was upset about, was that I should have been approached at some point and at least, hey, we're doing this. Do you want to be in on it again? And I get it. The city's busy. Absolutely. The city's busy. The city's busy. I'm very busy too. We all are. I just want to make sure that everybody in here knows I don't know but a few businesses on the West End that aren't 100% into this program. They want us to improve. They want the grant funding that's coming out for these other businesses to be able to get started, to become successful, and not just start up, last a few months, and then die out, spend our money and lose our money. We don't want that. We want to move forward on the West End. And I think the businesses that are up there are strong businesses. The ones that are kind of in the group that says, hey, let's keep going forward. I do think that the West End's a great place to build. And I thank the city for all the work they're doing on the West End. I know that it's very expensive and there's very little money to go around anymore. And with the things that are going out on post right now, there might be less money going on. So I just want to thank you guys for all your work and make sure you understand that that's more what my thought process on this is, solidarity. I would like to see that whole thing nothing but blue on the West End and every property in there in the program. So I know there's not enough money to spread around, but at least it shows that everybody up there wants done. So that's all it was.
Thank you for your comments, and appreciate your patience with us on getting you in. We'll get you in.
No problem.
And I want to thank you also for allowing us to use your facility when we had a very contentious meeting, about 18 months ago, maybe 2 years ago now, to talk about this process, and I appreciate you hosted it. And we got put a lot of stuff out on the table, had a lot of good discussion, and this is what's come of it. So thank you for being a great citizen.
Good deal. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll close it to the public. Discussion, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, because this is all wrapped into also the possibility of getting grants, because the property that I actually rent from is in here, and because it is a possibility that I could receive money from the city in the future, I will be recusing myself from this vote.
Thank you, Mrs. Wolf. Any other further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's 6 and 1 abstention. Motion passes. Thank you very much. We now go on to under new business. Item number 4, Mr. Benning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I move that the minutes of the regular city council meeting of March 14th, 2019 be approved as written.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additions, deletions, corrections, amendments?
If we weren't here, we should
Should abstain.
abstain, right? Okay. So I'll be doing that.
Yeah, that's fine. You just put it on the table. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? 3-4, 4-4, and 3 abstentions, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, motion carries. We now move on to item number 5, Ms. Wolf.
Mr. Mayor, I move that Resolution 2019-028, approval of the renewal of a mutual aid agreement with the Arizona Water Wastewater Agency Response Network be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mrs. Fulsar, may we have the staff report, please?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this agenda item is an update to an existing agreement with the Arizona Water Wastewater Agency Response Network. City's been the member of the network for a number of years, and basically what it does is it provides for emergency response from other municipalities or agencies in the event of a large-scale emergency. The city can either request or offer assistance in that kind of a situation. This isn't an agreement we've ever had to activate, fortunately. We've also never been in the position yet where we've had to respond to someone else who is having that type of emergency, but it just provides some redundancy in our system and a way to get aid in the event that a situation were to overwhelm locally available resources. The updated agreement is a result of changes being made by AZ Warren. Primarily, that change is to include private utility companies into the agreement. Previously, only municipalities were allowed to enter into the agreement. And as you know, many water companies in particular, locally, are owned by private companies. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mrs. Fassar. Questions for Mrs. Fassar? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to, I'm looking at 5.3 in the procedures for requesting assistance, and I just want to make sure that everybody knows this, is that if we are asked for assistance, it is within our power to decline or accept, correct?
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Wolf, yes, that is correct. We always have the ability to decline.
Not that we necessarily would.
Mrs. Calhoun.
Are there any dollars involved in helping or requesting help? And my concern around that is with the private water companies that are involved.
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Calhoun, the way the funding works is it is all done based on the FEMA rate schedule for a declared emergency. So the requesting agency would be responsible for all costs of response, including reasonable costs to house any responding agency members, and all of that, any equipment, any personnel is all on the FEMA rate schedule.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, Mrs. Fassar. Now we go to call to the public. I have nobody that's turned anything in to me to speak tonight. Come on up.
Sorry, I was going to take a bus here, but I couldn't.
Well, just introduce yourself, and you give Maria the paperwork there, because I know you're ready.
Oh. Hi, Michael DiCarlo, resident of Sierra Vista. Been visiting here since '91. Sorry for the out of breathness here, whatever. I'm in a lot of pain, a little bit of arthritis and gout going on, but that's part of why I live here. I want to compliment council and the new council members on the last few work sessions that you've had displayed. It's really been a really good to see the amount of interactions between you and staff and actually answering those hard questions. Or actually, you're getting there. You're almost there. But just keep on pursuing what you're going through. As far as staff, I want to thank you very much for all the presentations that you've given. Nat, thanks for reducing the stuff for the admin side of the CBDG stuff, because that's like plain and obvious if you're going somewhere else other than the city. Thank you for the stuff on the streets, the briefings and everything. One question I would have is, did we find any anomalies with the ground penetrating radar? And if so, where? And stuff like that. We should be looking into that. Just a recommendation.
Take your time.
As far as the buses, not a complaint, okay? Thanks for doing what you're doing. Thanks for trying to make it smaller. Thanks for trying to make it better. But if we're going to have all of them go through Walmart, shouldn't they be sponsoring at least 2 out of 3? And shouldn't, if it's a public bus system, shouldn't they be leaving here when this council meeting's over? Shouldn't all of them come through here? If it's a public thing, they should go to all the public meetings. Just my opinion. But that's what it's there for. And also with the buses going to the school, another good thing, interlink with the community. But have we looked ahead and said we're going to fingerprint all of our drivers to make sure they're not? They shouldn't be around schools. Okay, we've experienced that here in the city in the last decade. All right. Let's see. As far as this parking thing with the RVs, I get it. You want to improve people's value in the property, but the thing is that 2/3 of the properties in town are probably represented by a HOA. So this would only be applying to the folks that don't live in HOAs. So this is a tax upon the poor. Because if somebody had a nice enough RV, they could pay enough to go park it somewhere else. So if the neighborhood has no problem with it, what is the government doing in there to begin with? Okay. And finally, this is really the only reason I'm here, and I wanted to talk to Chief Thrasher before I got here. Hey, a couple years back, this is how this crap all started. I requested a couple police officers' records, right? And I didn't intend to make money off of them. And I didn't do it with the intention of making money. However, through my analysis and my ability to explain to other people through drawing pictures and link diagrams and matrix associations and stuff like that, I've really created a pretty good. Somebody offered me some money to buy this from me, but I would need your waiver to do that because I'm not paying $1,200 to get this out in the public, because that's what would be the price of what these records would cost at X amount per page. I paid my $7, did my research, tried to make the community better, and this kind of just fell in my lap. Now, we can do a sarcastic cartoon about these anomalies that occurred that created, I would say, as a submariner, an excessive amount of professional courtesy, we'll say. And when you do an investigation and you do open source, sort of like Facebook, everybody's linked together, and you start looking at names and everything, the only guy I give a waiver is right there, because he's the admin officer and he wrote all this crap down. The patterns and trends that I saw just disturbed me and motivated me to draw this out, and not draw it out, but analyze it fully. And I don't want to go the sarcastic entertainment way with it, because it's easily done, and it could be fictitious, and that's fine. People have two first names. That's really backwards, if that makes sense. So I'd ask for a waiver on paying that extra money and just let me have the information I got. I didn't do it with malicious intent. And last little nugget, because I'm moving. The new council members, for you, okay? There's 3 members on this panel that approved the FY 2015 budget. If you look on page 109 and 110 of the 2015 budget, you'll find that these taxes that, the sales taxes they're trying to use for this energy improvement is tied directly to people's property, because they're utility taxes, which have been reallocated to the general fund to, actually, it goes back to when the recycling didn't add up. Sir, I'll be done in a second. When the recycling didn't add up, you look for where the money went, right? Or if it goes in, it's got to come out it. And I was just doing my research there. And in 2015, we switched columns for franchise fees and made them general fund taxes. Those franchise fees are on utilities such as cable. Those are tied to your house. So this is actually really tied to property value.
Your time has expired.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Sorry for running over.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now go on to comments and requests to council. We'll start with Councilwoman Humphrey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, I have one event I want to remind everybody about, because it didn't happen last month due to the Snowmageddon or whatever that was. It's going to be at Cochise College on Saturday. It's the Youth Arts Festival, and it's going to be from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. for all the school-aged children. They have vendors, activities, arts and crafts, music, dancing, and I hope to see everybody there. And I missed everyone, well, except for the few that went with me to DC, but it was a great trip, and I hope everyone got a chance to read my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Pacheco.
I just have thanks to everyone in the room. Good to see a good full room today. We're glad to have you here. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Wolf?
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. Mr. Benning?
I got a couple things, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I'll be short, though, I hope. First, I had the opportunity to fill in for you and Mayor Pro Tem Gray ribbon cutting this weekend, and I just want to pass on a congratulations or a good job, a kudos to Matt and Tony over there. The owner of the property said, quote, "It's a great experience working with the city. Between Matt and Tony, they were extremely open and easy to get a hold of." So I just want to pass on good stuff to people because, sometimes we don't hear the good. Then I want to say how blessed I am. I want to thank the people for electing me because I met some people yesterday with the Public Works award ceremony. Great people. There's so many different sections. I can't hit all of them, but I do want to congratulate. First, I want to thank Ms. Flissar for having me, but I want to congratulate Susan Quimby. Did I say it right?
Yep.
For the Public Works Employee of the Year. So out of all the sections, Susan Quimby from the Transit section won Employee of the Year for Public Works. So it was a joy and an honor to Ruben, Sam, they were all great. And then finally, I want to thank Mr. Ninsky from Buena High School Student Council and McKenna Heck. They invited me to come talk to the student council yesterday, and instead of talking to them, I just fielded questions from them. And our youth, like I say it almost every time I'm up here, our youth are amazing. And the questions they had, the ideas they had, you can't get anywhere else, and you got to kind of switch gears because you talk to the young adults. But I just want to thank the two of them for having me, and great experience, and I appreciate it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benning. Mrs. Calhoun?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to recognize, in addition to all the folks that are in the audience and the interest that they're showing in our community, I want to recognize Miss Barbara Blankenship, who many of you already know. But when she told me she had been a 65-year resident of the city of Sierra Vista, I thought, that's almost the amount of time it's been that Sierra Vista's been a city.
I'm 65, so.
Well, I'm sure she came here when she was a tiny baby. So thank you for coming to the council meeting, and you'll also see each one of you received an invitation from Ms. Blankenship for a special event that we'll talk more about closer to the date, but save the date of May 25th for this very special event. That's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Calhoun. Mayor Pro Tem Gray? Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Gray. I just have one item. Vietnam veterans are going to celebrate an event tomorrow, 1 o'clock in the park at the flagpole. They're going to have a number of things, the proclamation. They're going to have, they're supposed to have some folks, Native American folks there as well to help celebrate. So it should be a great event. Come out and celebrate the end of the Vietnam War and the great things that our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines and Coast Guardsmen did during that conflict. With that, I have nothing else on the agenda. Meeting adjourned.